Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today should be a very exciting one. Alright, so today I am starting the 325IS, or firing it, whatever you want to call it. I'm only gonna fire it. I just want to hear it run for like 2 seconds. I don't even care. Just want to hear it run and idle on its own for like, I don't know. I can't really run it for more than a minute. Let me explain why, what's going on, what's set up, what's not set up. So hopefully you guys have a better understanding of kind of what's going on with the car. So if you're new here, if this is your first time visiting the channel, welcome. This is my 95 325IS that I am manual swapping and engine swapping. So I went ahead, pulled the M50 that was in this car out because it had low compression on cylinder 6. The goal was to get this car ready for a drift event that's coming up here in like 2 weeks. And the goal was to have the car running and driving and already kind of set up. It's taken a lot longer than I expected. I guess you could say I was a little bit more eager and I kind of underestimated the work that was going to go into this. But this thing has been fully refreshed top to bottom. Now, I did not actually take the head off or anything, but every gasket aside from the head gasket and the timing cover gasket has been addressed and everything's new. All new sensors, all new gaskets, new ICV, new everything. Water pump, new cooling system, like the whole 9 on this car. It has also received a stage 2 clutch as well as a get drag. Couldn't find a ZF, and again, I couldn't find an M52 B28. This is a B25, just to clarify that. Rebuilt the injectors. I mean, you guys can go back and watch, but let me catch you up if you are following along. Let me just show you what I got going on here. So as you noticed, the last video I did not have the power steering pulley, and I still do not have that. I actually rushed the package from SCP and it just never showed up. So I'm still waiting on that. It should be here tomorrow, but I do want to fire this car today, so I'm just not going to run any belts. Kind of sucks. That's why I'll only be able to run it for like a minute, if that. So over here, what we got going on, this has changed a little bit. You guys, on the last video, I didn't have any of this set up. So reinstalled the throttle body, throttle position sensor. This is a Rally Road intake elbow, as well as I have a Rally Road ICV hoses. So there should be no vacuum leaks, there should be no problem. All this shit is nice and silicone and super cool. So the MAF is hooked up, connected. I do not have a cold air or like an air intake or anything right now. So again, this is just for the purpose of starting the car. The only thing that's not hooked up on this car, like realistically, is obviously the front clip with the cooling system. And then I'm still waiting on that master cylinder, but I did install the slave cylinder today, as well as a Condor stainless line from the slave to the hard line. I'll throw a picture up of that. So anyways, that's kind of like the general gist of, oh, I got M-Pars. Not for this car, but they're just hanging out here for now. That's a general gist of what's going on. I'm gonna try and start this car today. I think I'm ready. Just need to put some oil in it. So I just got some 5W30 full synthetic from O'Reilly's, because this car will get a full oil change, like basically after, you know, a mile or 2 is on the car. Hopefully we'll have a car that at least cranks first. Like I don't know. This is my first time doing this. I hope I plugged everything in right, but we'll find out, I guess, shortly. 5W30 going in. I really want this car to start today, because once it starts, I will be so much more confident in putting the front clip back on the car. God, this is gonna take forever. This is a small little funnel. Alright, so I went ahead and pulled the fuel pump fuse. Hopefully this thing cranks and doesn't start. Build some oil pressure and we can actually put the fuse back in. So please fucking crank. Bro, so, oh my god, so I forgot the dumbest shit. Bro.
What did you forget?
I forgot to jump the neutral safety switch for the automatic transmission harness.
I'm fucking weak. You spammed a paperclip into where?
Into pins 1 and 3, and I jumped pins 1 and 3. Alright, so do not forget to jump pins 1 and 3 for the neutral safety switch. Let me show you. You can see this. I jumped pins 1 and 3. This is actually the paper clip I use to reset my oil light when I do oil changes, but I just jumped pins 1 and 3 and it immediately cranked and it sounds super fucking healthy. Alright, this is take 2. I'm gonna put the fuel pump fuse back in. Alright, so the car just randomly stopped cranking when I was trying to crank or start it. So it just stopped mid-crank. I don't know why that is, but My guess is the battery, so I couldn't imagine that anything just like stopped working aside from possibly the neutral safety switch that I bypassed with the paper clip. So I know that's not a super consistent way to do it, but I'm gonna actually do it properly with a wire solder or whatever. So I'll do that in a bit. I just want to make sure that this thing, I really want to hear it start. I just confirmed that it is in fact in neutral, so I was a little scary. The car doesn't have a drive shaft in it, but I want to be 1,000,000% positive that this thing isn't going to do anything weird, because I took it all apart and put it back together. So I'm a lot nervous, I cannot lie. But when it cranked, it did sound very healthy, so I'm excited about that. If you listen, like those cranks sounded really good. Sounded like it's got good compression, so as funny as it is, hopefully this thing runs well, but I will not ever compression test this engine until maybe at times come to sell it. I'm just not gonna compression test it. I feel like I'd rather just not know. We'll have to just feel it out. But anyways, I'm gonna let this battery charge a little bit more. I'm gonna give it another attempt. I'm not necessarily in a rush now at this point. Now that I know that it cranks, I'm pretty confident that I hooked everything up correctly, and it sounded like it was gonna start, but I had the fuel pump fuse, and I put that back in, and when I put the fuse back in, like I said, it was cranking and then it just stopped. All right, boys, as you can see, we do not have a running car at this moment in time. Just oddly enough, like you guys saw, the car cranked. It sounded healthy. It sounded very healthy. Like the compression, like, you know, the engine sounds like it has good compression. So I guess I could take that away from this whole thing. So at least it cranked, but now I'm really trying to figure out why it just stopped cranking. And it didn't stop cranking. Like when a battery's dying, the crank slows down, like it's just not enough power to get the car to crank anymore. And that's not how this stopped. It literally just straight cut power completely, like didn't cut power, just cut cranking ability. Like it would not crank anymore. I called up my buddy Tyler. He's been helping me through this whole thing. And we started with the battery. I tested the voltage on the battery with the key off and on, and it read 12.3, 12.5, so it's within the tolerance and it should have started. The starter's old as shit, I know that, but it worked fine. It was one of those things where it's like, I don't want to spend another 300 bucks. This car's already costing me so much money, I'm just gonna skip the starter. Well, now, if it is the starter, I'm pissed. Because the car already cranked over. We know it did that, and now it just doesn't want to crank, and I didn't change anything in between that time. So, and because the starter is actually getting the relay, like the relay's clicking, the fuel pump's priming, like I guess it's not EWS related, so it would come back to the starter. So if it is the starter, I'm gonna be pissed because the starter is not fun. So given that this car is a 95, I don't actually know the production month for it, but it was between OBD1 and OBD2, so right, like my M3 is a OBD1 car, but depending on the build date, they will possess different things. So this could have to figure out what EWS system it has, and you know, that really comes down to just finding out where it's at. I think it's behind the glove box, but anyways, I'm gonna try and bypass EWS. It just makes it hard finding information for this car. It has a silver, like a 413 DME. It doesn't even have the red label, so just like a bunch of shit that doesn't make any sense. And like I said, I'm pissed, I'm fed up. I wanted this car done a long time ago, and now it's still sitting here. I've been at this all day and I'm pissed. So I'll see you when I see you. All right, what's going on, everybody? It is the next day. I just got off work like 5 minutes ago, jumped into my coveralls, and I did a lot of research today on the clock. So yeah, I was digging through forums that were like 15 years old, and I basically came up with what I think is the best way to start diagnosing this. Given the way that the car stopped cranking in the middle of a perfectly good crank, it seemed like, I want to check fuses first, and I was gonna check, obviously I'll check relays, but I really don't think it's relays in the fuse box, at least, just because all the relays in the fuse box are for like power to the passenger seat, power to the headlights, and the radio, and so on, and all of that stuff works. Same thing with the fuses. I checked the fuses yesterday. There's only one fuse that I want to go back and look at. Of course, go back and look at them all. I really don't think that it's anything EWS related, and the reason I think that is because I looked up on mDecoder when this car was produced, and it is a December of '94, so it's still should have, like, it's like right on the cusp of being an EWS 2 car, but it does in fact, according to the production date, have EWS 1. Alright, well hopefully you can tell by the big fucking smile on my face, that was the fastest repair I've ever made. Alright, so if you can tell from the big fucking smile on my face, that was a success. We made a repair, and I'm going to tell you what happened, and I'm going to tell you why I'm stoked. Alright, so at work this morning, I was researching my problem. Just all of a sudden it just stopped cranking in the middle of a healthy crank. Just couldn't wrap my head around that. Everyone is saying that it's the starter. Just doesn't make that much sense. Why would a starter in the middle of cranking give out? That just doesn't seem like it would make sense. Maybe they start whining and the starter gets tired and the cranks are slower, and it didn't make sense to me. So in my head I'm thinking it has to be a fuse, or it has to be some kind of relay, like something shorted out. It just doesn't make sense that something would stop mid-crank. So lo and behold, I have terrible vision. I have horrible vision. I know I've spoken about this briefly, but I have very advanced glaucoma, and that's why you guys don't see a ton of driving content on here. I have a lot of anxiety surrounded by driving, but that's why I like to work on stuff. Anyways, I was looking, I had a digital copy of the fuse box diagram. I was looking through and kind of reading what every fuse did. I got to automatic transmission, and then I was like, you know what? It would make sense that the fuse for the automatic transmission blows, because I have a fucking paper clip jammed inside of 1 and 3 pins to essentially trick it into thinking that it is in fact in park. It would only make sense that that's what's blown. And again, if I can go into the fuse box, at first glance nothing looked broken, nothing looked like burnt, or the connections. I don't know, I feel like even with great eyesight this is hard to tell. I don't think you'll be able to see it because this camera is not great, but that thing is blown. So all I did was go into my O'Reilly fuse multi-pack, pull out a 5-amp fuse, pop it in, and the car cranks. Alright, what's up guys? I guess I'm starting my car right now. I'm on the phone with Pat, and he's convinced me to start the car. I wasn't going to do that today because I wanted to just take my W and be able to go to sleep tonight, but if the car starts, I'm going to be super fucking stoked. And if it doesn't, oh well. Alright, what's up guys? It is the next day, it's Tuesday, following Monday, yesterday, when you saw me attempt to start this car. After I started to crank it for a while, decided to check for a spark. The car was getting no spark. So I started looking around. I'm looking at my wiring, making sure that my wiring was correct, making sure that nothing was unplugged. And then I looked at the crank sensor, and I'll throw a photo up right now. This is what the crank sensor looked like. As you can see, something is not correct. But to be honest with you, I don't know why that slipped my mind. I'll be 100% straight up. I never knew really how a crank sensor worked, but I did find it strange that the sensor would just be sitting there. When I installed it, just found it really weird that the sensor sits there. Like, what does that sensor do? Like, it's clearly has a metal contact on the end of the sensor, so that's there for something, right? So when I was installing it, I thought it was a little strange, but I was referencing one specific forum for my swap, and it never mentioned, the only thing it mentioned was using, like, necessary, using the factory location, the OBD1 location for the crank sensor, not the OBD2 location. So if you go back, like if you watch any of my videos, I literally point the camera right at it and I say, it's imperative, it's like most important that you use the front location, because that's the information that I received from this write-up that I was referencing. Well, lo and behold, not only does the crank sensor have to be there, well, something has to be there aside from the crank sensor, otherwise it's just not going to get signal. So how on earth would it be able to read crank with the sensor and the pulley combination? It just doesn't make sense. I knew right away that was pretty much my culprit. Now, I don't know if the car is going to start. I'm banking on it because honestly, everything else seems to be correct. and that was like the big thing. When I was researching it at work, I was very nervous and very scared that I was gonna have to pull the Jesus bolt or remove that, the main crankshaft bolt, the 22mm. Because I wasn't really able, I wasn't able to tell. Like the pulley was so seized on there, it just kind of looked like it was all one thing. But as soon as I popped the 6 13 mils, I think they were, as soon as I popped those bolts out, I realized they are separate, because I put an impact on the Jesus bolt and I started trying to loosen it. Fucking stupid me. Just to clarify, I get all my information mainly from forums, so I'm not gonna put blame on people. Like, that's not, yeah, I mean, I take full responsibility for this and it was stupid. But then again, this is the only knowledge I had of this is studying forums and stuff, and I need to start looking at my Bentley manual a little bit more. With all that being said, I'm gonna show you what got swapped. It'll make a little bit more sense once I kind of make it a visualizer, and then we're gonna try and start this fucking car. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit nervous. It's cold out. I'm kind of tired. I just really want to hear this thing run. That way I can put the rest of the car together. So let me show you this. So I got my big Milwaukee light here, but as you can see, now the crank sensor is actually in contact with something, at least enough to pick up a signal. So it didn't have this sprocketed piece, because on these M52s, the crank sensor is actually internal on the side of the block on the driver's side. So anyways, that is now installed. So I was missing that sprocket. So all I had to do was pop those 6 bolts out and pulley came right off, swapped the pulley, took off the water pump pulley so it would clear, and reinstalled it, reinstalled the belt, and now we're ready to fire. Let's see what happens. Well,
look at how excited he is.
Sounds rowdy.
Oh my god!
I told you, bruh.
He's so excited.
I told you you got that shit in the bag.
Oh, I smell it.
bro, I'm fucking crying.
You just put that shit together, never doing it before, what, a few weeks? A month or two?
Yeah, bro.
I'm fucking proud of you, dog.
Thank you, bro. Dude, I feel like such a pussy, but fuck, dude.
No, hey, dude.
If it wasn't for your help, I would not be here. Like, this would not happen. I would have given up. I would have thrown the fucking car away already.
People are so stuck up, don't want to fucking help.
Right. Which is what I've dealt with. That's what Well, there you guys have it. The car runs. Surprise, surprise. Honestly, I am so stoked I managed to pull this off. Now, I'm not going to say I didn't believe in myself, like I wasn't going to be able to do this. I knew eventually it was going to happen. I was going to get the car to start. But it's just it's such a surreal feeling. So again, to reiterate, this is my first time doing this. I don't really have prior experience with this aside from basic jobs, and you guys can see all of those videos on my YouTube channel with my M3. My M3 holds a special place in my heart, but this car at this moment will forever hold a special place in my heart because I just put the fucking thing together. So hopefully it translates over camera, but I am extremely, extremely grateful for all of the people that left me with a positive comment or gave me advice or, you know, sent me information or warned me about something. Like, all of that really did help. If I'm being honest, this car would have not been possible without Tyler, the one that sold me the engine. And it's just kind of crazy how you can buy an engine off of somebody and then they end up being pretty much the person that's solely responsible for helping me through this build. Now, I know at the end of the day, the car is nothing special. It's got an M52 B25 with a Getrag. It's not gonna blow the doors off anything. It could have been done a lot faster. It could have been done a lot cheaper, but it was a learning experience and there's still so much more to do on this car. I'm just excited to get this part out of the way, but it's such a sense of achievement and motivation that now I can't wait. I'm super excited for the rest of the build. At this point, all I gotta do is put the car back together and start driving it. If you're interested in building a car of your own and you have doubt or just fear that it's not gonna work out, I promise you, if you just stick to it and keep your mind in the right place and you just dedicate time to research and actually working on the car, there's no way you can't be successful with it. Because prior to this, I was I was just so unsure that this was even gonna happen. Up until this car ran, I was so unsure of the future of this car, whether or not I was gonna even finish this build. I was super scared that I was gonna have to like abandon this build on YouTube and everybody would know about it. Putting my mistakes out on the internet and on Instagram, especially on Instagram, is tough. It's hard to get myself to do that sometimes, but I would never hide a mistake if it prevents someone from making the same mistake. So there are plenty of things I did wrong throughout the series up until this point to get it here. But at the end of the day, the car runs and I did all this shit. Like it's yeah, it's crazy. So all the negative comments that I did receive, all of the negative opinions I received are completely outweighed with all the positives. So at the end of the day, I'm stoked. I'll go ahead and close this video out and get excited for the future videos because this car is just getting started, as you can clearly tell. Still not even put back together, but my arms are getting tired and it's fucking freezing out. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and watching this series. Anything you do helps the channel grow. So with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.